Morning, everybody. Rusty from the Rusty Razor. Got another shave of the day. Got something old and new. Gonna show you everything. Today we're going to be using Stirling's Barbershop. Excellent scent. If I wasn't really enamored with Sterling Spice, this would be almost a go-to also. This is almost like a Old Spice scent, but a little bit different, more powdery, a little more green in it, but love it. I can see myself shaving with this all the time. We're going to be using the Edwin Jagger 89 with some Astra blades today. Got those together, and it's like aromatherapy. Need it after the yesterday sucked. That's all I gotta say. My day was horrible. Spent 5 hours in a dentist chair. Had a broken, cracked tooth back up top. And they said, oh, we're going to put a crown on it. So they ground it down to where they needed to get it. And then put the temporary crown on it. And they put the molds on there. It took 3 times for them to get the measurement, everything right with all the molds. They take it and it's like, oh, that's wrong. Try it over. Oh, it's hurting. Like, and it's like, inject you again. So 5 hours later, I finally got out of there. And it's like, can this day get any worse? But it was sort of all right. Since I was right next door, it was like 3 minutes away from my friend's house. And he's been telling me I need to stop by his house. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll stop by the house. And he gave me this. A new mug. It's an old shaving mug. And it says, what is it? A.F. Heller? Something like that, I think, on there. So he does antiques. He goes around Des Moines and antique shops, goes online, finds all kinds of stuff, and he's like, he's seen this for a couple bucks, and he's like, I'll buy that. And also with it, which was kind of nice of him, he said, this little bugger. He knew I was big into shaving, so he got me a straight razor. And let's see, it says value on one side and Valentine and Ewell, Chicago, Illinois, made in Germany. So that was this little razor. Not very sharp at the moment. It's like you put it on there, it could even cut the hair off my arm, but I'll get that. I got stones where I can get to work on that thing. But that was a little gift that I got from my friend. So he's always doing stuff like that. He bought me since my birth year is 1964, he bought me a Coleman lantern made in 1964. That's something he does, is that he finds Coleman lanterns, restores them, and then sells them for an ungodly amount of money. And so that's his hobby. It's like, I have other hobbies, which he has nothing to do. His hobbies is collecting knives, refurbishing knives, blades, and Coleman lanterns. Like, everybody has their little thing they like to do. So it's like, you know, and I also, it's like, I like to delve into like scotch and enjoying the sense of that stuff, taste. And I'm also a miniature warfare gamer. So been doing that since I've been a wee lad. So we all have our little things we like to do. And that's like I say, I mention to people, it's like, miniature warfare, what the heck are you talking about? And it's like, you ever watch those movies where they're sitting there moving those little pieces around as they're plotting where everything's at? Well, imagine that with rules where you can fight battles. And some of you may have seen like Napoleonics and American Civil War and the American War of Independence, ancients, you name it, English Civil War. People will have miniatures, and it can range in scales from about 28 mil miniatures all the way down to 6 mil ones, which are about yay big. You can spend a lot of money doing it too. And half the fun is buying it and then painting it. It's like you research your upcoming battles, what you want to do, and figure out what miniatures you need, and go with it. Along with, I think I've mentioned before, one of my other hobbies, which is actually my most expensive hobby per se, is for cost of equipment, was astronomy. You can fork a lot of money out for just an eyepiece. And so far, shaving is one of my cheapest hobbies I got. You see, I see individuals spend $200, $250 or more on a razor, and not even bat an eye. You can spend $300-$500 on just an eyepiece alone for a telescope. But, you know, that's hardware. Once you got it, you got it. Unless you drop it, that would be a heartbreaker. So, I'm just curious what everybody else does. You know, it's like, is this your only thing you do for hobby-wise? Or, you know, shaving is your only hobby? And you just like, the only place you do something? You know, it's like, I know there's people that into model trains and stamp collecting, coin collecting. You name it. If it can be collected or done something with, people will do it. It's what you do for relaxing. Take the time off. Escapism, that's what it is called. Then you could get really bad off where, oh, I need this one item. It's like my one friend, he's finally finished off one of his miniature collections for gaming. He collects the 80s style miniatures, and they're hard to find, and you're talking a lot of money just for one. You can spend up to $50-$75 just for one miniature, because you know they didn't make very many of them, and a lot of them were either in somebody's collection when they were a kid or out of high school, and they went off to college or moved out, and the parents seen it, like, oh, that's just garbage, and they'll throw it out and it's lost forever in the dump someplace. Or as a case of one of my friends, since they were all made of lead, he said, oh, these things are worthless, they're just old lead miniatures that are worthless. It's like, no one wants these things anymore. And he turned around and melted them into bullets so he could shoot them. And now each one of those things are worth like $50 a piece. And he's like, oh, stupid. Like, yep. Those were expensive rounds you put downrange. But, you know, that's the thing about a lot of these things, is that over years, you'll, what seemed like an everyday item, 30 years, 40, 50 years down the road is now an antique. Like, I remember in the 60s and 70s, sitting with my grandparents. My one grandfather really loved sitting around listening to the radio all the time. And he had all these old tube radios. Really nice tube radios. The wood cabinet style. He had a big wood cabinet one, and he had smaller tube ones that he had on a little stand next to his table where he'd sit and drink his coffee. And I'm just thinking, man, I would have loved to had those someplace along the line when the stuff got divvied up after my grandfather passed away. My grandmother downsized to a small apartment out of the house because she didn't want to live by herself like that, and that all was given away or sold. And you just think about how much. And my grandfather was a mechanic, and he was like a genius when it comes to stuff. He would be able to just look at something and hear something and just know how to fix it. He had that knack. And that included electronics. And he had a little repair shop in his garage. And people would bring everything imaginable to have him fixed, like small engines, lawnmowers, boat engines, cars, TVs, and radios and stuff. He'd bring it in, take a quick look, run it through, and look at stuff. And he's like, within an hour or two, he'd know exactly what needed to be done, get the parts from the store, and fix it. And that's how he took care of his retirement. And he wasn't doing that, he would go out on the lake and go fishing. He was a avid fisherman. One of the things you could do when you're living in Minnesota. But I just think of that and like, man, I wish I would have had those radios today. It's one thing I have picked up from my grandfather is I love listening to the radio. I'm also a ham radio operator, so he was a ham operator too. Back when he had the big old call it boat anchor style radios that would they were heavy, big old tubes. He would sit around and either listen to what's his favorite thing would be listening to the local forecast, weather, and conditions. It's like where fish were biting and everything, because he was also a fishing guide for the local area, and he would go out and take care of that. And sometimes he'd crank up the radio and talk and make a contact with some people. He'd be talking somebody across country or England or someplace like that, and it kind of rubbed off on me. And I got my ham operator license too. Amateur Extra, which is your best license you can get in this country. There's 3 levels. There's a technical, general, and extra. It was fairly easy to get for me, but I had a lot of background in science and spent a lot of time around radios. You can hear them blade working. A little bit more. There we go. I think we got it. Oop. Not got it. There we go. Now we got it. So, man, that's really haven't been talking about the soap too much, but this storytelling. Another thing I picked up from my grandfather. He was a big storyteller. And these scents, because this does smell similar to Old Spice. Not as much citrus in it as Old Spice, but it does have a lot of that smell with it, and it just kind of brings back memories. All right. If you got something that smells kind of like Old Spice, you might as well go with Old Spice. Now, if by chance I make another order from Stirling, this will be one I'll get a tub of, and I probably get the splash to go with it, because Old Spice, like I said, is more citrus forward. Just the Barbershop is more powdery, kind of a greenish powdered scent that goes with it. So smells good. It's like almost hard to describe, but there is something in there that just like, yay, 2 thumbs up. But that was Stirling Barbershop. If you like those type of scents, if you like Old Spice, you'll love this probably. That was my Edwin Jagger with some Astra blades. Excellent shave with that. Love this razor. And I'm going to have to spend some time and get this thing. It's pretty good condition too. Not seeing any rust. Then again, he may have buffed this thing out. But we'll get that thing taken care of and see if I can get an edge on it. Maybe sometime in the future. I did get a weeper. Yeah, that's what happens when I start going against the grain on my lip. I start knocking those bumps off. Alright, so hit the old like button, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Rusty out.